Premiere Pro, what a program. But if you're new to Premiere Pro in 2020, you're probably thinking to yourself, this isn't iMovie. And you're right, it's way better than iMovie, but that means there's a steeper learning curve. So today I want to show you 7 super easy transitions you can do in Premiere Pro right now. But first, I want to show you a 1-minute clip that incorporates these transitions that I did for my wife. You can check her out on Instagram at Erica Laugh, I think it is now. She changes it all the time. So I'm going to roll that footage and then we'll dive into the tutorial. So let's dive into this, shat we? We shat. All right, our first clip that we're gonna be tackling is this transition zooming in and zooming out of the watch in different locations. And if you're gonna be doing this, you have to plan ahead, and it works a lot better with an object that's always in the same orientation, like a car or a motorcycle or a cup that you can place down somewhere on a flat surface. The watch is really difficult, so keep that in mind. So before everything's edited, I've got my sequence, everything in place and in order that I want to have it. These clips have been color corrected, but not color graded yet. And I start with 2 basically identical clips that have been shot the same way in different locations, starting close up on my object, the watch, and zooming out. 2 clips, basically the exact same. And that's how you want to start out. Your first clip you want to place slightly overlapped on top of the second clip. And the reason is we need to line up these watches so that they match perfectly. But you'll notice that the clip starts where it should end. So I'm going to right click on this top clip, go to speed duration, hit reverse speed, okay, and that gives us the zoom in, zoom out effect. So the next thing that I want to do on this top clip is come over to effect controls and toggle on opacity. And then towards the very end of the clip, I want to bring opacity down to, like, let's say 70%. Right there. And what this does is it allows me to see both watches from both of these clips. And it also is going to give us kind of a fade transition from one clip to the next. The final step to this is making sure that the watches line up and are the exact same size between these 2 clips as the transition takes place. So what I want to do first is grab this bottom clip and make this watch a little bit bigger so that I can line it up with the clip on top. And so you'll just want to play around with this between the 2 frames until you're able to line both of those clips up so the watches basically lay on top of each other perfectly. And that's how you get that type of transition. Next, I'll show you how to do this blowout to white transition, which is super easy. You just have to make sure that whatever your second scene is starts out with a white background. It could be the sky, it could be a wall, a piece of paper, something else. We're going to do that with an effect called dip to white. That's right here. We're going to drag it onto our first clip right here. And you'll notice that this transitions to gray just a little bit. Like if we remove this clip and let this play all the way through, it's not really what we want. So I want to come to the point where it goes to full white and then bring my next clip on top of that so that there's a little bit of an overlap and we get this effect. Pretty seamless. So next we're going to do this frame within a frame. In order to get your inception on in your editing, you have to first start with the shot itself, and this kind of has to be premeditated. For this type of transition to work properly, you want to make sure that your subject passes in front of the entire frame of your scene while you're filming, for at least a few frames, like Erica is doing with her hair and sweater in this clip. Behind that clip, I've got the clip that I want to reveal, and these have to overlap a little bit. But while I am selecting the background to mask out, I'm going to move the clip that I want to reveal over to the side so that I've got nothing behind this clip that I'm working with, which is gonna make it a little bit easier to see what I'm doing. So on this clip, I wanna scrub through and I wanna find the frame where there's no background in view, where I just have Erica's sweater and her hair. And that looks like right here, so I'm gonna go one frame before that, a little too far, and there. I'm gonna hit C and I'm gonna cut my clip. And I wanna go to the spot where I have the first little sliver of background poking through, and I'm gonna come over to my effect controls and I'm gonna grab the free draw Bezier from my opacity effect control, and I'm going to draw a little shape over the background there, and I'm gonna close it up. So this blacks out my entire frame, which is a problem. So I'm gonna come over here and hit the inverted box, and you'll notice that now I have this shape that is covering up the background, and I want it to just barely cover the background. And I also want to toggle on mask path, mask feather, mask opacity, and mask expansion. Opacity, you always want that to be at 100. Mask feather is going to kind of create a blur along the line of your shape that you've created. So I'm gonna leave that at 10 where it was, and then mask expansion expands that mask. So I'm also going to leave that at 0 where it was initially. I might bring the feather up to 20. You can play around with this, whatever your preference is. You're gonna have to mask out the background frame by frame, which isn't too bad because our clip is pretty short now, but in order to make sure we're moving one frame at a time, you're gonna wanna use this track selected mask forward one frame button. So hit that once and it's gonna move the frame forward once, and you're gonna wanna move your shape to mask out the background. If you lose your shape, all you have to do is select mask 1 and it'll bring it back, and you can move it a little bit. And you're just gonna go frame by frame. You'll wanna pay attention with clips like this where you've got the background poking through in the opposite corner. I'm gonna have to manipulate the shape that I have here to take that into account. When you're done going through each frame, you should have something that looks a little bit like this, and then you can drop in the clip that you want to be revealed behind that, and there's your transition. And another tip to make things much simpler with this transition is if the subject that you're passing in front of your camera lens is flat, like a wall, a toaster, a big bottle, flat edge right there, that's way easier to mask out than something that's like moving and blobby, like a big sweater. Next is this seamless spin transition. So here's clip number 1 and clip number 2. And these were both shot in slow-mo, and we need the spin to happen quickly. So if you're shooting in slow-mo, there's a couple more steps involved than if you're just shooting a regular shot. And I actually want things to be fast before and after this middle section. I just want her hair to be the slow part. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to bring this up so I can see my clip a little bit better. And I'm gonna use P on my keyboard to select a point right here and a point right here where I can ramp the speed back up. So I'm gonna hit V to get my selection tool back, and I'm gonna bring the speed all the way up to 300 by just dragging this line. We have a slowdown there, and I'm gonna grab this other side and drag it up to 300 also. And that's what I want. Except that speed ramp is a little bit clunky, so I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna drag these 2 points out, and I'm gonna smooth that ramp out with this little handlebar. I'm gonna do the same thing to this clip. I want all of this to be fast, and I want it to slow down right here. So I'm gonna drag this up so I can see a little bit better. I'm gonna hit P, select a point on this. I'm gonna drag these little ramping tools apart so that I can smooth this out like I did on the previous clip. I'm gonna go back to my selection tool, drag the speed up to 300%. I'm gonna actually cut my clip here, and this is where I want things to slow down. That looks good. I'm just going to drag these clips together, and that's a pretty seamless transition. With this transition, it's pretty important to make sure that your lighting from one clip to the other is pretty similar, so that way the transition as you're spinning around is less noticeable when the viewer's watching. So next we've got our scene within a frame, and this scene is a green screen effect, so you're gonna have to get yourself a bright green matte piece of paper. So this is the paper that I used for this transition. You can notice, I don't know if you can tell, but it's like textured, there's like lines through it. That's not what you want, but this is kind of all I had last minute while I was like, oh, I'm gonna do a tutorial on how to make a bunch of transitions. What works best is if you have something that's matte and solid, no texture, and it will save you so much time in post-production. The easiest way to do green screen is to do it right when you're filming. Fixing stuff later, super inefficient. I'm going to select the clip, and in effects, I'm going to search for Ultra Key. I'm gonna drag that down onto my clip, and on Ultra Key, I'm gonna grab this little eyedropper tool and select this green area. But there's still a little bit of green and haziness around this, and we can adjust that by editing the spill suppression and matte cleanup areas. You'll wanna bring the contrast up a little bit, set the midpoint so that you have as much of that green eliminated as possible. Same with the desaturation. Basically, we're trying to get rid of this green line over on the left. And we'll bring our spill down to 0. And there you've got a scene within a frame. You'll notice at the end of mine, it gets a little bit messy, and that's because the paper that I was using was textured. If yours is matte and very clean, you won't run into this problem. Our second to last effect is the slide effect, which is super easy to pull off. Start with a clip of somebody sliding their finger across the camera, and just where they start to move their finger, you're gonna want to bring the next clip right onto that frame on top of that frame, just like this. Select that clip, and over in motion, you're gonna toggle on position, and you're going to drag this first value over to the right until that frame is entirely off screen. Then you're going to move to the end of the clip with the person sliding their finger, and you're going to bring that frame all the way back. Can I get a oh? Can I get a ooh? How about a oh yeah? And almost as easy as the last one is the clap out, the screen smash. I don't really know what to call this one. Basically, you're gonna start with your clip of somebody smashing their hands down over the frame. It could be you, it could be somebody else, someone special. Right before they start to move their hands down, you're gonna split the clip. So I'm gonna hit C, split the clip, and I'm gonna select the second clip. And what I want to do with this is put on a crop. I'm gonna come over to Effects, hit Crop, bring this over to this clip. On the very first frame of this second clip, after splitting these two, I want to toggle top and bottom on. They should be at 0%, and then I'm gonna go to the point where the hands come together, and that should be 50% on the bottom and 50% on the top. And there it is. So there you have it, 7 transitions that you can start doing in Premiere Pro right now, even if you're a beginner, and that'll bump up your video game in 2020, which is right around the corner. So if you like that, give me a thumbs up, let me know what you thought in the comments, and tap that subscribe button. I'll see you next time. Bye.